their external appearance. Jeremy Clarkson has been looking at 3 that have stood the test of time.
Much to everyone's surprise, in 1975 the XJS replaced the E-Type Jaguar. With its hard top, its automatic gearbox and its near-silent engine, it was not a sports car then, and it's not a sports car now. There have been various derivations since 75, convertibles, a 6-cylinder option, and most recently a thundering but nearly undrivable 6-litre. But through oil crises, privatisation, the V12 Coupe has soldiered on.
Now, I know it's 15 feet long and the cabin's only this big, but when you're sitting here, cocooned by this huge transmission tunnel, titchy little windows running round, it feels like you're in your own little oldie-worldy nest. There are bits of the dashboard I'm not too fond of. The instrument binnacle looks like an awful hangover from the 70s, though I'm told it's to be replaced soon. And the last time I saw a knob like that, it was on a 1955 oven. Overall, though, it does have the charm of a lovely English country cottage. The wood looks like it's meant to be there. The leather feels right. A lot of manufacturers simply nail wood onto their most expensive models to make them different from the acrylan and plastic ones further down the range. That never works. It can never look as good as this. I just love it.
The engine's old too, fashioned from cast iron and so fabulously heavy, it's still a superb means of propulsion. And then there's the buttress styling. It was heavily criticised, but today, when all cars look the same, this is a refreshing change. And anyway, I've always rather liked it. It was always intended to be an effortless grand tourer. Indeed, in town, it can be persuaded to do 9 mpg.
You can buy more power, more sophistication, and a lot more fuel economy, but no car will do 1,000 miles of German autobahn and a trip through the Alps in one day with such a plonk. You simply engage Waft-matic on the automatic gearbox, sit back and just watch the world go by.
There's no doubt that a replacement for the XJS would be lighter, faster and more spacious. But would it be better? Probably not. One car that isn't wearing so well as this old Leviathan is Volvo's even older 240. Now this can trace its roots back to a time when Harold Wilson was Prime Minister, when England won the World Cup, and when Rod Stewart was going out on his first date. It sells now only because of Volvo's image. It's perceived to be as safe and as sturdy as a Gloucestershire cottage, or a mansion in the case of the estate.
Well, 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 it seems to be true. All Cotswolds antique dealers do have Volvos. The thing is, every year Volvo makes some changes to their version of perpetual motion. This year I've got a bigger back window. This policy of evolution rather than revolution has resulted in it becoming quite a good value for money package. It now has power steering and central locking provided as standard, for instance. It also means that when a customer goes into the showroom for a new car, they're not just getting a newer one, they're actually getting a better one.
It's not quite as spacious in here as you might imagine. A Montego is just as commodious. And frankly, I find the whole thing a bit on the austere side. Dynamically, the Volvo 240 feels like it's a product of the 60s. With its rough engine and its live rear axle, it's only really happy at very slow speeds. Push it and the whole thing becomes coarse and a trifle wayward. Few, however, will push it. It's rather like a barber jacket, this. Hardly the most fashionable garment you can buy, but de rigueur nevertheless for the country set. It's nothing short of mind-blowing that this car was launched to compete with the Austin Cambridge, yet in 1990 it will outsell that technocrat, the Citroën XM. It can do that not only because of its image, but also because it's comparatively cheap. But a car doesn't have to be old-fashioned just because it's old. The original Audi Quattro is now 10, and it's every bit as fast and vibrant and exciting and expensive as it ever was. Designed originally to win rallies, it was the first performance car that successfully mated a powerful engine to full-time four-wheel drive. There have been more successful rally cars, but none has made such an impact. It really did change the face of rallying. Audi pulled out of the sport 4 years ago, and when they launched the new range of 80s, 90s and coupes, a lot of people thought the proper Quattro had died. Wrong. Truth be told, it nearly did, but such is the strength of feeling, particularly in Britain, that the venerable old warhorse was awarded a stay of execution. Better than that, Audi are still developing it.
It's powered now by a 220 horsepower, 20 valve engine, turbocharged, intercooled, 2.3 litres, 5 cylinders. Even with a catalytic converter, it still manages to get from 0 to 60 in 5.9 seconds. But there's an awful lot more to it than that.
The original four-wheel drive mechanicals, which split power evenly between the front and rear axles, have been replaced by a far more sophisticated system, which sends power to whichever axle sensors say is best able to handle it. The electronics extend inside with a gaudy instrument binnacle that I don't think is in keeping with a sensible four-seater supercar like this one. Then there's a facility for turning the anti-lock brakes off. Apparently the car stops quicker on snow without ABS. If you want to keep going on snow, there's an electronically lockable differential. However, its use is somewhat negated by vast tyres, which work superbly well in normal conditions, but are quite useless in snow. They're just too wide. The Quattro may have earned its reputation in conditions like these, but the latest version is a real handful. You should have heard my language while we were filming this. Even so, the Quattro has yet to be beaten by any of the imitators which have come along in the past decade. None of them, indeed no car, covers ground so quickly and so safely. And the same applies even when it's pouring with rain. Even Audi's own attempt to topple it with the new S2 have by all accounts failed. Now in this job, I'm forever being asked a question. Given all the money in the world, what car would I buy? You're looking at it.